Let's talk about the cash flow statement. The purpose of the cash flow statement, or sometimes we call it the income and expense statement, is to show whether or not your client is living within their means or living within the income that they're earning. And typically, when we're creating these statements like the cash flow statement or the statement of net worth, we're going to do this on a cash basis, meaning we're only going to count income that's actually been received or expenses that have actually been paid. So we're only counting cash in and cash out. And so that's actually a good way to think about the parts of the income statement. So we have three parts if we jump right into creating it. The first part is income. And so if we're creating this cash flow statement on a cash basis, then the income is simply all of our cash in. So that could be cash from a number of sources, not just salary and wages. It could be bonuses, commissions, overtime, overtime is usually part of salary and wages, but it could also include public assistance, Social Security income. If you have students, it could be scholarships or grants, or interest and dividends from investment income. So you want to be sure that you're counting income from all possible sources. And then our second part will be expenses. So again, if we're working strictly on a cash basis, then if income is our cash in, then expenses are cash out. And for our expenses, it might be helpful to categorize expenses, and there are a number of ways you can do that, but a lot of folks like to separate fixed expenses from variable, or sometimes we call them flexible expenses. And the reason for this is that when you think about why we are creating the cash flow statement in the first place, it's because we want to see if they're living within their means. And so if they're not living within their means, we might need to start suggesting ways that they can fix some of these cash flow problems. And that's typically going to go back to the expenses, because if there is a cash flow problem, what you're going to need to do is just look at the cash in and the cash out. Basically, you need more money coming in and less money going out if you have a cash flow problem. And so, since it's probably going to be easier to fix the expense side, meaning try to find ways to have less cash going out than to increase the cash coming in, that's why we might want to look at expenses in terms of fixed and variable. Because fixed expenses are those that are not very easy to change. They're things that we're usually contractually obligated to, like rent or mortgage payments, car payments, or some other type of loan payment. And so it's going to be harder or take more time to reduce those expenses. But the variable or flexible expenses, we usually have more control over. And so if there is a cash flow problem, this is usually the best place to go to try to solve it. So now our third step in creating the cash flow statement is to compare income to expenses and determine if there's a surplus or a deficit. In other words, we're going to take total income minus total expenses and that will give us either a surplus if the number is positive or a deficit if it's negative. And those would be the 3 steps to create the cash flow statement.